Hi everyone. So today would like to start different from the previous week, and I want, since we are in the middle of our labs, I want to give a review from the previous lab so we can make sure that everyone is the same page and that we got what we need to have for the next phase. And so what I'm gonna do is I will recreate the final result of the last assignment. So I asked you to submit, and the final page had a list with a scatter plot for the countries for the years of 2008. So I'm going to reproduce that, and I'm going to do that, explain each phase of the process. So right now I have a clean page, and I gonna start creating the title for my page, that is Gapminder. Then if you remember, we have some title on the top. It's Gapminder. Well, and health nation. Okay, so the first thing we learn is that in HTML I can use stylish sheets to style things, and the way I do that is by either selecting a tag or selecting an ID or things like that. So I will call this div my title, and I will style it. So the background color will be black, and the color of my text will be white. Second thing, you see that there is a margin here, a gap. We want to remove that using margin. Sorry, body here, and then margin. So now we removed, we have everything close to the beginning of the page, but I want to create a space here between G's and G's. So I can use here on my div, I can use padding. This will be, no, 5 is too much. 2. Okay, this happens because we are being affected by the padding of the H1 probably. So let's do the following. Let's do H1, margin 0, then we are good. So this is my title. If I want to change the font, then I can change the font for the whole page here, and I can change it to Arial. Okay, so that was our first goal, that was creating a title using CSS and use HTML. So now we want to create a list of countries. So this div is on the top. I want to add a new div that will be the bottom section of our page. So all this thing here, where the scatter plot and the list will be. And inside this div, I'm gonna add a UL for my list. And helps to just make sure that you are working to create like some dumb data before you have the actual data. So you can first make sure that your HTML works correctly. So here I have 3 countries, but again, I don't want to have these dots here. So what I do, I can have a class here if I want to facilitate. So remember, if I have many objects and I want to style some of them, I can use class. So for example, here I have country list, and then I can use country list to style, and then I want list style to be none. I want padding to be 2. Let's put a little more, 10. And then I have my list. So now we want to populate that with some data. And now to add data, we're gonna have to add a script section so we can write scripts for our page. So I'm gonna add script here at the end, and we'll be able to have JavaScript. So the first thing that I need to load data is the tree. So I'm gonna add the tree here. And you remember that we had problem here. So I am using a HTTP server, so I wouldn't have problem. Remember that to avoid future problem, if you are having some trouble, you can just add HTTP on the beginning of the original D3 URL. So this is all we need to import D3, and now we can use D3. So remember, right now we have this style that is just styling your page. We have a title and we have a list, and we want to add our country data inside this list. So the easy way to load the data with D3 is d3.json and then provide the URL for the data that you want to load. So in my case, I want to load the one that we have in GitHub. So this is the final one. And then once it's loaded, I can call a function with the error and the result if it's successful. And here I can write my code. And as I said, so it's much more easy in JavaScript if you use functions. So make sure that your code for each function is short, so it's easy to move things around and to reuse your code. So as we always did before, I want to create a function called render that is responsible for rendering all the things that I want to see in the page based on data, and it will receive data as parameter. So I just call render. Because we have two things to render, we have the list of counts and we have the chart, we can actually create one function for each. So let's make some room. So we can call function, and we can call render list, and function render chart. That we will implement later. But for now, I have these two functions that also receives data. Each of them is responsible to render one specific section of my page. Then here, what I want to do is to call these functions. So I can just call render list data, render chart data. That we will implement only when we have the chart. Let's move this function down. Okay, but to be able for this to work correctly, render should never create things that are global. So we have to keep global things outside the function. That's why I want to provide an ID here. And I want to create a variable outside the function that will be my list. Okay, so now I have the list where I want to put things, and I have my function. I can do the work in the function. So I can do list dot select all, and I want to select all LIs. So remember, this is selecting a placeholder for the LIs, for the future LIs. So whenever we select this, when we run this is how it works. Okay, so basically what happens is when we type select all LI, the tree creates this list that is empty. There is no element in the list. And what happens is then when we do .data, the tree create another list with the data items and associate these items to these elements. But we don't have elements here, so the tree just create the connection, although we don't have any element. And then finally, when we call .enter, then we select those elements that do not have HTML elements for the data, that in this case is all of them. And then after we do .append, and then finally the tree create the elements and close the association between the data point and the element. Then in the future, if I select LI again, then I will get a list of LIs. Now I have them, and I will get the data points that are corresponding to that LI. If I decided to change the data, let's suppose that I added a new data and now I don't have the key 3 anymore, and I have another key here that is the key 4. So what happens is that for the key 3 that has been removed, we have an element, but we don't have a data pointing to it. And for the new one, we have the element pointing to no. We have the data pointing to no element. So this one is are the one that we select with remove. So we select a zit and we get all the ones that are being removed from the data. And then we can just call .remove to remove them from the screen. The new ones are now the enter. So when we select enter now, we will select only those, not the previous ones. And then we can just do append, li, or whatever we need. So that is how the data flow works in the tree. So every time I keep updating, the tree creates these links between the data point and the HTML elements. Okay, so I selected all my LIs, and now I want to do exactly what I just said. I want to do data is equal to my data. And then I have enter, that is wherever I have a new one, I want to append an li. And then because I want to be able to format these LIs, I want to do class list item. So I can apply some style to it. And now I want to decide which text I want to show. Then I can do text will be equal to the name of the country. Oh, and here is result. So here should be result as well. Okay, so now we have the country list here, and I have all the countries. So one thing that I asked in the previous assignment is that I want to show only the countries with data for 2008. I don't want to show all the countries. So the first thing that I can do is I can decide a section for parameters of my application, and in this case is the year. So if I want to change the year from 2008 to 2007, will be really easier. Second thing is because I have a centered render method, I can filter my data here, and this will reflect in both render list and render chart. So we can do that by doing, so this is my filter data, and it will be equal to data.filter So filter is a function that will do what's supposed to do. So you get an array and it will return only the elements of the array that satisfies my criteria here. So in my case, my criteria is I want to return only if the income year, that is if the country has an income for that year, and the country has also life expectancy for that year, and it has population information for that year. Should be here. Okay, so this basically is supposed to filter my data and only return countries with information for that specific year here. And then now, instead of passing the data as parameter, I can just pass filtered data. So my list should render only countries that has information for that specific year.